it wasn't really the entrepreneurship that I was interested in or that I've been interested in. It was the engineering. You know, the trend in iPhone apps wasn't encouraging me anymore because in the beginning it was like super easy to make a lot of money and we were making a lot of money, but it was going down. It was very clear the trend was going down. We had to invest a lot more. People were making a lot of polished apps. And I thought, like something else. I think that we shouldn't continue investing in this. And that's when I now thought, okay, what can I do in Nigeria? So it wasn't really about travel per se. It was more like, I think that Africa is like a rising market now, like there's very open, anybody can do anything. So I think the biggest learning, and I'd say this from the iPhone app because we're creating a lot of iPhone apps. The biggest single thing to me was that the product is going to sell whatever you do. So the product is either going to sell or it's not going to sell. It doesn't matter how much you polish it or not. If it's a good market, then the shitty product will do well. And if no matter how great your product, if it's a bad market, if people don't want it, it's not going to sell. So the most important thing is that you are actually producing something that the people want to buy, not how well the product is or how good the product is.
Welcome everyone. Today on our podcast, we're excited to welcome Mark Essien. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark is a standout figure in the Nigerian tech scene. He is the person behind Hotels.ng, which is the Nigeria's online hotel booking platform, one of the most well-known booking platforms. Mark will tell us a little bit more about it at the middle of the podcast. He was born in Ikot Ekpene, Akwa Ibom State. Sorry, Mark, for for not saying this completely correctly. You were born in 1980, so you are a millennial, technically speaking. So, and Mark is a successful entrepreneur, software developer, and startup investor. His work, particularly with Hotels.ng, has significantly advanced Africa's travel and hospitality sectors. So join us as we delve into Mark's journey and the impact of his innovations. So once again, welcome, Mark. Thank you, Mark. My first question to you would be, let me just frame it first. So you come from a family, a business-focused family in Nigeria. You went to Germany later to study computer engineering and computer science. So this is a very interesting blend. So you have a business background. You were early exposed to that, seeing that, growing up, and then you have a tech education in Germany. Tell us, how did that influence you to become a tech entrepreneur?
Basically, it wasn't really the entrepreneurship that I was interested in or that I've been interested in. It was the engineering. So I really love everything about engineering. Ever since I was a kid, and my dad, who was working in kind of mining business where he was getting stones and sand out of the water. So he would bring a lot of machines and be working with the machines. And I was so fascinated by all those machines. So I really wanted to do engineering. And, back then when I was really small, there wasn't really anything like computers, or there were not much. So it's later when I now went to Germany that, at that time, computers were the thing. And I kind of, pivoted a little bit into computers, but to me, it was all still engineering.
You're one of those examples that I see that starts very early and creates a lot of stuff, a lot of companies, and has a lot of ideas. From what we talked and from what I've researched, you were someone who started doing computer programming from the computer of your sister. Then from there on, you developed a software called GNOME during the .com boom, which was a file sharing service, and then a language learning startup called Ingolingo. Can you share with us what drove you to do these ventures and how they paved your way for to come to the travel industry and hospitality?
Well, I mean, first of all, I didn't start early, right? I started quite late because I was in Nigeria till I finished secondary school, so I was around 18. And up until then, I hadn't even used a computer yet, right? Like I hadn't done anything. And at 18 or between 18 and 19, my parents sent me to Germany then, like I should go to Germany and do university. And when I came, I first had to learn German, and I had like a year and a half where I was learning German before I could get into the university. And in that time period, I think that was around 99, so 99, 2000. And so, the first dot com boom was kind of starting. There was a lot of
Mhm,
stuff
mhm.
going on. And I got a CD from Microsoft in the post. So Microsoft would just send out these Visual Basic CDs to everybody, and you get it in the post and so on. So I got one, and my sister had a computer. I put it in, and I started learning Visual Basic. It was super fascinating. I hadn't yet started university then, but it was like I really, really enjoyed it. But I needed to make money at that time, so I needed to get a job, and the job that I got was as a carer. So there was a guy who was paralyzed, so from the neck down, he was completely paralyzed. And when people are paralyzed, they have involuntary movements, so he
Mhm.
can never really be alone. And the job that I got then was in the night. So when the guy is sleeping, I'll just be in the kitchen awake. If I hear him moving, then I go over and correct his position and so on. But I was literally not allowed to sleep even a wink through the night. So I got this laptop and I was coding there the whole time. That's all. From evening like 6 till 6 the next morning, I'd just be there coding, and every single night because like nothing else to do in the night. So, and because of that, I was able to code quite quick. And the hot thing at that time, and the thing that interested me, was file sharing, because you could get movies and you could get music. I didn't even realize anything about piracy, all that. It was just file sharing, super cool. So I wanted my file sharing software, and I just started developing it. I really didn't have any big thoughts about is it a startup or anything. I just started making the file sharing software. I put it out then because in that school I was in, it was part of the university, the entry course to the university. So I put it on my university homepage there, and it started getting a lot of downloads. But I didn't know that till the system admin came to me and knocked on my door and said, like, what's going on? Like, I'm the number one guy, like 10x in terms of data consumption. Like, what am I doing? So, it turned out a lot of people were downloading it. I didn't know that that was going on. And he told me about it. I was like, okay. And then I put my phone number on email on the website. I wasn't really thinking. I just thought that's a good idea. And the phone started ringing. It was ringing all the time, and people kept on calling me and calling me. And then some dude from America called me and he said he wants to buy the software, that let's deal and so on. And he asked me how much. And I said, okay, $10,000. That was like huge amount of money for me. And he said, let's do it right now. And I was like, okay, that was a bit quick. And I told him, no, I'm no longer interested. So, and he kept calling me, and at some point we kind of agreed on a sum, and he was like, okay, we have got a deal. And then some other guy then from Germany called me and said, let's meet. I really am interested in this software. So went, had dinner, and he gave me, and he was right in the city I was in, and he made a better offer than the other guy, and said, he'd buy the software because they were doing something very similar. Buy the software, I go work for them and all that. And I thought, like, this is a great opportunity. And I told the other guy, okay, I'm not interested in money. He started threatening me. He said, it's a verbal deal. We already agreed. I'm going to sue you and all that. I was so scared about that. So, but in the end, it all calmed down. I sold the software to the guys in Germany, and then I went and started working there. And I mean, all this was within like 8 months, from when I started learning programming till all this thing had been sold. So it was super quick. And that was the GNOME software, like Nutella Media Machine. That's what I called it. And then after that, I moved on. I worked with those guys. Continued working on file sharing software, and we worked on video recording software, which now became my second company, because I worked there for a while. Remember, I hadn't started university. Then I left to go to university. And one of the problems we had in that company was around a video recording components. If you're a Windows programmer, they have this DirectX components direct show. So when I left, I thought, you know what, they couldn't find one. Let me just code one. So I coded a direct show MPEG encoder called standard MPEG. And I just sold that through my entire university, and it was $600 per license, so it financed my entire studies till the end. And then somewhere towards the end, then I now switched over, did the language sharing software with a buddy. After about a year, we got another offer from someone in the US that wanted the software. And it just came like random email, want to buy the software, said, okay, made an offer, we agreed. And he bought it and then just shut it down instantly. So I don't really know who bought it in the end because it was an agency, but I think it could be one of the candidates. Like somebody didn't want us to be out there because they never did anything with it. Then after that was over, I now started doing iPhone apps. So that was around 2008 now. So did iPhone apps, various ones with the same friend. Then around 2011, by this time I was done with university. I now, the trend in iPhone apps wasn't encouraging me anymore because in the beginning it was like super easy to make a lot of money and we were making a lot of money, but it was going down. It was very clear the trend was going down. We had to invest a lot more. People were making a lot of polished apps. And I thought, like something else. I think that we shouldn't continue investing in this. And that's when I now thought, okay, what can I do in Nigeria? So it wasn't really about travel per se. It was more like, I think that Africa is like a rising market now, like there's very open, anybody can do anything. And then I kind of looked around till I came across the hotel booking space and then created Hotels.ng from there.
Interesting. At some point of your story, I was thinking that you would have the same story as Bill Gates or any of those big tech guys that leave university and go found the big company somewhere. But you continued studying and you finished your studies, and it was something that you aimed at in the end. Also interesting is that somehow you learned by doing a lot, right? What was the biggest learning point that you had throughout that journey? Because this is, you probably failed a lot throughout that experience.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, I'm only describing the apps that did well, right? But I made many, many other apps that absolutely did nothing. I think there were a lot of learnings in this. Well, first of all, about the university thing. Yes, as a good African son, you have to finish university, and I did do that. I got a bachelor's and a master's in computer science while all this was going on. So I think the biggest learning, and I'd say this from the iPhone app because we're creating a lot of iPhone apps. The biggest single thing to me was that the product is going to sell whatever you do. So the product is either going to sell or it's not going to sell. It doesn't matter how much you polish it or not. If it's a good market, then the shitty product will do well. And if no matter how great your product, if it's a bad market, if people don't want it, it's not going to sell. So the most important thing is that you are actually producing something that the people want to buy, not how well the product is or how good the product is. All that is completely irrelevant because we'd spend, like months on an app, 2 downloads and it's over. We'd spend 3 days on an app, but if the concept is right, like it would just take off. Right. And it was very weird because it was hard to predict. There was an app we had called Freakish Animals. Very silly app. All it had was strange animals in it. Right. That app made $10,000 a month. It's like it makes no sense at all. What we did is we went to BuzzFeed, looked at the top articles from BuzzFeed or whatever was really trendy then, and one of them was about these animals, and said, let's make that into an app. Did incredibly well, and other ones that we did nothing. So I think the biggest learning in this is just the app has to be that something people want. There has to be a market for it.
Yeah. You would say like an app, it is better to have an app or even a company, an okay to average company in a very good market than a very good product in a bad market. So whatever you
Correct.
do, it's going to be super hard to achieve success. Do you still, till today, you go to directories like Reddit to see the trends, like you did? You mentioned BuzzFeed, but we have the Reddit, the subreddits, and you see all what is happening, what are people, what is trending, and so on. For your next things, you're gonna get ideas that way. How are you doing it?
Well, now it's a bit more sophisticated. What a primary philosophy of mine is that if you're going to build anything, you need to know how you'll market it first, right? Because not everything is so easy to market. And if, for example, I built a gun, right? How exactly am I going to sell a gun? It's a bit difficult to sell a gun, even like unless I want to become criminal or something. So you have to understand the end of the story first, which is how will it sell. And to do that, a more sophisticated way now is to actually go to Google keyword search, right? And actually just type in there what you think people who want this product will be typing in Google keyword search, and look at the volume, how much volume is there. If it's 10 or 20 or something globally, there's no point. Nobody's going to do that, because if it's something people need, they are searching for it on Google, and Google gives you that information for free, right? So anything that is in there that it has reasonable volume in the country you are looking at, and best of all, it's actually growing. If you have such things, then you can already like pretty much hone down on a proper idea, and you can kick off right away, because people talk about things like SEO, and I do a lot of SEO. I'm very good at SEO, but you can skip all that by just running Google keyword ads, right? Because Google keywords ads, you're at the top. You don't need to do optimization, content, all that stuff. You're just right there as an option. And if your product is good, people don't care what your product is. They'll click on it either way, and then you can capture information about them and start talking to them to understand more about the customer. So to me, Google keyword ads or Google keyword research should be the primary way that anybody can establish if this thing is even going to work at all.
And
Okay.
also think on the marketing. So how are you going to sell the product or
Yes,
the service?
exactly. So there's a book called Traction by Gabriel Weinberg, and it kind of describes all the different ways in which you can sell a product. And you have to have a method that fits to you and what you can do. So for example, I can do SEO and that kind of stuff really well. I can do paid ads, so keyword click kind of ads. I know that stuff. But sales, I'm not good at sales. I don't enjoy selling. I don't enjoy talking to people. I don't enjoy having those meetings. So if I decide to invest my entire time in a product that can only really go with sales, then this is going to be so incompatible with my personality that I'll probably want to hire somebody, and that person will never do it as good as I do in the beginning. So to me, there's a lot of opportunity out there. So it's better you pick one where you can actually wake up and be excited to go do it, than you wake up and like, oh no, I've got to start making calls again and all that. Some people love that, they're extroverts, but not everybody likes that. I like product-driven marketing, and I think any product that I work on, I rather make it around that area, around that type of marketing.
Mark, I'm thank you so much for sharing. This is pure gold content. I don't think that probably a few years ago I didn't even have an idea that this was possible. What you're sharing is so interesting, because in the end you search the market, or you work accordingly to what the market is searching for, and you go for it. You're after the next big thing, and that's your drive, and that's very interesting. And that comes down also to Hotels.ng. What brought you? Because it's very different. I think there's this kind of a change from doing apps to doing apps about animals, for instance, to do Hotels.ng, which is the biggest hotel, not only hotels and other spaces in Nigeria. What was the transformative journey for you, and how was it?
Yeah. So, like I said in the beginning, what I really care about is the engineering. So it's not like the big vision in that sense, like, I'm so passionate about hotels or something, but I am passionate about the idea of a marketplace, where people can find what they are looking for. And in this situation, I was looking for a marketplace, something that would facilitate commerce profitably in Africa. And what I did at that time, there were some directories, this kind of old school directories where you have every possible thing on it, like Craigslist. There was one for Nigeria at that time. And I looked where the most traffic was going, or what looked the most popular there. And at that time, hotels on that particular site was the most popular. So I picked that and kind of just focused on the engineering of making that work, and it works really well because, booking and all the rest, they don't have the hotels we have at the quality we have and can do the bookings that we do. They don't have all the operational things that we had to make happen in order for this to actually work, because a lot of it is phone driven, right? It's not just booking and the hotel get an email and so on, because many hotels don't react to that. So we have to have like a pretty large call center just to keep the whole thing running. So there's a lot of operations behind that actually makes it work. And I think that was super interesting. Once I had picked the product, then it was just super interesting to do the whole engineering to actually make it work and make it good.
Thank you. Look, it's fantastic because you somehow managed to find the gap between the rest of the world way of doing and the need of the local market, and you managed to create this connection between the two gaps, and I see that you're doing fantastic, and I need to congratulate you on that.
Thanks.
Victor, I think you have something to talk about the
Yeah.
Hello?
Sorry, I just a quick question before you, Victor.
Right.
Sure.
Go on.
Mark, how many listings do you currently have on your platform, Hotels.ng?
We have 13,000.
Over 10,000 listings.
We have 13,000 in Nigeria, and in Kenya we actually have 2,000 already.
Right.
Really? You're already in Kenya?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're in Kenya. We have been exploring the market. I'm not very pleased with that market. It's small, but we started and it's operating. We're operating in Kenya. And also, by the way, very strangely, we have in India almost where we have around 20% of the bookings from Nigeria in India, in our India site already. But we just set it up and left it for a long time. So this year, I'm going to get actually much more serious about India.
Interesting. Well, it's a good market, probably.
So you have an instance of Hotels Nigeria targeted to the Indian market to make bookings for.
Yeah. We have hotel
India,
bookings.
So the bookings are for listings in India or listings that. How?
No, listings in India for Indians. So for us in Nigeria, India and Nigeria are very similar markets. They are both English speaking, mixed English and a local language. But a lot of the regulations and a lot of things that are going on are very similar. So I don't really see, instead of it's harder for me to operate in Cameroon with French and all the regulations than it is in India. And it's hard. Ghana would be a great choice, but Ghana is a really small market and they are super, super controlled, very regulatory. So you can't really get in there. So in terms of expansion, like my direction is Kenya, South Africa, India. So I'm not going to bother much about Congo or Chad or Niger or all that, because you put a lot of effort in, but you get very little returns there.
Interesting. India is a big market. I mean, if you grab just a very small fraction of it, it's Huge numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, we can build an engineering team in Nigeria, build a product in Nigeria, just the same way India builds for the US. You can stay in Nigeria and build for India, and you are running at much lower costs. So these are things that I would like to explore also.
that's why I love you. That's why I love to have you here today on the podcast, because I love this story. It gives, I think it will give hope to many people listening and get inspiration. It's possible. It's doable, and it's possible to export talent and export services to other markets, especially
Mhm.
in the tech
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And you came more recently with another initiative that aims precisely at bridging this talent gap in the tech area, which is your boot camp, your internship program. What did motivate you to come with this initiative? And can you explain a little bit on how it works and
Hmm.
the results so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, how did we come across it? I mean, if you've heard my other stories, it's always been kind of I stumbled on something, and I think that's what normally happens. Like I'm just trying to do something, and then I'll stumble, and I'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting," and I'll kind of go a bit deeper in there. And by the way, I think that's really important because it's very difficult to just sit down and analyze, and then you come up with like, "Wow, that was the best idea ever." Some people can do it, but many people can't. But as you are kind of walking through life, like things just come. And I think what's important is just to keep your eyes open and not like look at it and look away, but look at it and like, hey, that's kind of interesting. So what happened in this case is this was in 2016. So we had raised a round of financing for Hotels.ng, I think about $1 million at that time, around that 2016, and we wanted to hire coders, and there were just no coders in Nigeria. There was the people just were not there. You could pay what you want, but there wasn't anybody. And I really wanted to work with people in an office and not kind of outsource like many people were doing. So I thought, since I'm not getting people, let me do an internship, and then I'll just get people to come in and maybe train them or something. And I put out the call for internship application, and there were lots of applicants. I think we had over 100 applicants, and I just wasn't sure, like, how do I select all these
Wow.
people? And kind of thought, instead of doing it in the office, let's do it online. Let's maybe use Slack or something and just invite everybody and we'll pick the best. And everybody came in there and we kind of had a program and it was really fun. A lot of people were showing like insane talent. And I thought this really good. Out of that batch, I think I picked like maybe 6, 7 people. Then I did another batch a few months later. And the first
Watch
one
how
was
many
100.
people? Sorry.
I think maybe 7 people I picked out of the first batch of 7 out of 100. So I hired 7 of them to come work. Then in the second batch, I did it again, and already the applicants were at 1,000 people applied already. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like there's so many people. So we did it
Just
again, and sorry,
just from Nigeria
just
or
from Nigeria. Yeah, only Nigeria. 1,000 people applied to
a
join the
thousand
internship.
people?
Yeah, and I said again, like I don't know who these 1,000 people are. I'm not going to reject you based on anything. Let all of them just come in and we're going to figure this out. So they all came in, and now I'm kind of like, there are 1,000 people. How do we know who is good? So I gave a task, and some people were able to complete the task, and the rest I said, you know what, you couldn't do that task, which was pretty simple, so you're out of the program. And I did that, and I did that like a few times, and at the end, I think we ended up with maybe 50 people who I was like, these are great people, but unfortunately, I cannot hire 50 people. Like, I don't even have space for them. So I took a few that I needed. And then I called all my friends around and said, hey, I've got a bunch of people and they're really good. They went through this program. Do you want them? And I got most of them hired, and some were still in school and different places. And at that point, I was like, there's something here. Let's keep doing this. It's good for the people. It's giving me a lot of talent, and who knows what can come out of it. So we continued the next year, and we went from 1,000. The next was, I think, maybe 8,000 people applied, then
Wow.
20,000. The last one we just did, 40,000 people all came in. It's complete
40,000.
chaos in 40,000
Unbelievable.
people,
Yeah.
and we have Slack, they give us special like allowance to have that thing. We have 40,000 people come in. It's absolute chaos. We have more than 300 people coordinating this. And it's always, here, everybody has to finish a task. And in the first week, out of the 40,000, 20,000 are already gone. So
Okay.
what has happened with the program now is that we do it in 10 stages. So everybody comes in. There is no entrance exam, but once you are in, we'll give you a task, and you have to complete that task to stay in the program. And then in stage 2, you'll get another task, and you have to complete the task, and so until stage 5. In stage 5, you get broken up into different teams depending on your specialty, and we continue the thing. You've got to continue a bunch of tasks. So we start with 40, but I think in the last one we ended up with around 800 finalists. So the people that finish, we call them finalists. There's no grading, but these are people who basically successfully completed a huge difficulty, kind of that we put to them, and they did it successfully. And because of the reputation that we have built, from that, everybody wants to challenge themselves and come into our program because it's a difficult program, and we don't pretend. We don't say it's for beginners. We say this is a hard program. There are going to be 40,000 people in. You're trying to be a finalist. The tasks are going to be difficult. But if you are a finalist, at the end we give them nothing. We just say, hey, you're a finalist. That's great. Or we give a T-shirt. Yeah, it's 6 weeks of hard work, and you get a T-shirt. But
Man,
people are really proud to do that.
800 t-shirts, it's a lot, huh? 800 t-shirts, it's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. And we actually print them, and we have parties. Like we have big parties at the end where everybody gets together. So we've been able to finance it. We sponsored the first 2, but since then we have always found one partner or the other who actually paid for it, except for the last one. So in the last one, the participants from the previous batch paid for it. And by the way, we don't pay anybody to teach. It's always the participants from the previous batches who now come to teach in the new batch. So we have kind of made it a sustainable, ongoing thing now. And even better now, because we have got, like it's since 2016, it's almost 6-7 years now. So we now have people that have got 6-7 years of experience, like actual experience in coding. And now we are working with a couple of companies that are looking for developers in Nigeria. And we have this big pipeline of people that, did this program back then, have been working for 7 years and are now really good. And we are placing them actually in jobs. Like I've got last month we placed 5 people, but last year we placed, I think, between 20 and 30 people in jobs. So it's accelerating, and we are doing more and more of this.
Wow.
Great.
And these are not local jobs, by the way. I mean, talking like, US-based, UK-based jobs. Like we've got hundreds and thousands of people in local jobs. It's like the foreign jobs where they are earning thousands of dollars monthly. That's the goal for most of the coders in Africa. And we are doing that successfully now.
People working in Nigeria for a company that is based in the UK or US doing software development, and they stay at home country and getting paid in dollars or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean,
Amazing.
some guy 2-3 months later, he had already bought like a hostel, and he was already a landlord with the money he was doing. Because
That's
it's so
wonderful.
much money. It's so much money for people living in small towns. If you're earning $3,000 a month, that's like almost 15 million. You buy a land and you build half the house in 1 month's rent.
Yeah.
So
That's
this
amazing,
is
man.
not only bridging this tech talent gap in Nigeria and regionally, but it's also crossing borders quite fast. How do you envision this going forward? What is the limit here?
Now, for HNG, that's the name of our program. I don't think there is a limit, and it is a serious part of the business right now because we do earn revenue from the people that we place in jobs. So we take a small percentage which we bill not to the people but to the companies. And I think that you have got a lot of African talent, and this African talent generally, it's not very easy to be in Africa and maybe go work in the US or in Europe or so. You normally don't have visa problems, so you have to be in Africa. All these people are there and they are learning the same digital skills that people all over the world have. And I think that Africa is going to become one of the biggest outsourcing markets because India is already expensive. So you don't have a lot of high population English speaking countries or French speaking, depending, that can work very well in a time zone. So I really see a lot more hiring happening where the people continue to live in Africa, but then work somewhere, particularly in Europe, because it's the same time zone. So we have like maybe 6 to 10 people in Germany. Unfortunately, some left. Some actually went to Germany. I think we have 5 people that are left to Germany, but the rest remain in Nigeria and they're working. And I think that that's the future. Like we're going to see hundreds, thousands of people who just live in Africa and work in one of these countries.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and coding is about kind of a universal language almost.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
just about to asking what about other non-English speaking countries in Africa, like the French speaking, Portuguese speaking, that can also be part of this talent move in Africa.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. But, it's always, I think the French speaking part of Africa work very well in France and the French speaking world, while the English speaking will work well in the UK and maybe the Germanic countries where people very easily speak speak English, I mean, like in Germany, Netherlands, and all that. And that's what we're seeing. While in the US, we do have quite some placements in the US, but in terms of time zone, it is easier for South America to deal with the US than it is for people in this part of Africa with the time zone shift. But in spite of that, the most people we have placed are actually in the US. So I think the language, it's easier to build that initial connection. But now with AI, it's actually getting quite easy to communicate cross-language, particularly digitally. So I'm not sure that that's going to be a big problem anymore in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, have you seen is it HeyGen, that AI startup that you can automatically do translations and using your own voice, your own tone? I just saw that video of the current
Millet.
president.
Millet from Argentina.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy
good.
It's crazy good.
It is. I actually wanted to use it and do a marketing video and kind of get each of my customers to see a different video of me, saying, hey, I know you stayed in this hotel. Here, I've got a few other good hotel tips for you. This one, this one, this one. And that can be completely automated. Like I'm not doing anything. I just do one video and the rest is done via code. So I think things like that are the future, particularly in the political space. You saw what happened in Pakistan, where they were using this for making ads because the guy's in prison. Yeah, so I think the next few elections we see, there's going to be a lot of AI generated personalized advertisement.
Yes.
Man, I don't know what the future holds. You heard NVIDIA CEO telling us that you don't need to learn to code because AI is going to do that for us. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I think there's still space for people. I mean, AI will be an augmentation of your skills for now. It will not entirely replace us. But what the future holds, it's I don't know. It's amazing for our kids, even for us. I think that the speed that we are seeing, the evolution of AI engines and platforms, it's I don't know. In 10 years, could be completely different. Mark, before questioning you, of what can we expect of Mark and Hotels.ng for the next I will get to that, but I would make it here a side note. I have a couple of side quests for you. So I have two topics here. One of the topics is quite hot in X or Twitter, which is in Nigeria, which is the crypto platforms. I mean, crypto is has always been for the last few years very popular within African countries, especially Nigeria, as far as I know. So one of the top adoptions or adopters would be Nigerian consumers. And it makes sense because as well, Nigeria, same here in Angola, well, people suffer from currency devaluation. So they kind of look at crypto. It's not easy to get US dollars, it's not easy to get euros. But you still can do peer-to-peer, right? Buying for crypto, and you can hold value. I mean, you can even increase value. I don't know, Bitcoin as of today is at 62 or $65,000. It was 69 yesterday. But I mean, in the lifespan of a year, it increased a lot. But what is happening right now with the crypto platforms? And there's this particular, I don't know if we should talk the name of the platform or not, but that you can trade. There's this tokenized. You can tokenize. Supposedly, imagine that you could tokenize a currency of a country, and what are the implications of that? So, could you elaborate a little bit more about it? What is currently happening, or if you just want to keep it on a theoretical side of it and not be specific?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a complicated matter, and let's say it's speculatory in some ways. But what can happen, and I'm not saying that this is happening, but I'm saying it can happen, is that a big crypto platform can create the equivalent of a small country's currency, right? And so somebody else can come in with USD, make a big purchase of that country's currency, and what they get in return is not the real currency. Like nobody actually made that deposit. They just get something like a token that bears the name of that country's currency, right? Now, if such a platform were to do something like that, then that is equivalent to printing money, right?
Pretty much.
And there's almost no difference, because the money that is circulating within a crypto environment and the money that is circulating outside is actually the same money. If it appears to be the same money, it's the same. So if such a platform is actually generating those tokens in exchange for USD, then they are taking it away where it would naturally have gone actually to the country's currency. It's now going to their personal token. So there's speculation that a major exchange is doing that, and I'm not saying that they are, but they could be. And a lot of devaluation, or people in government believe that theory enough to have spoken to some of these crypto guys, and a lot of them have been forced to shut down and end those particular tokens that they have. So it's an experiment. Like, I think I kind of brought the idea out a little bit, and I don't know what is going on internally, or if it's true or not, but soon we will see, because now those platforms have been forced to remove the country's token in there. So let me point out, there's a correct way of doing it, which is somebody brings their real money, they deposit it, and then they make a purchase of USDT or something, right? When that money is over, then there's no more money. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. But what is not okay is when the platform just makes that money. I don't think that leads to devaluation, and could be a potential reason for this devaluation. I don't know if that is so, but it could be. It's a dangerous thing to give that power to a platform that is just out there, because they deal with so much more money than these small countries actually have, and they can cause a big move in the exchange rate.
Yeah. So we are not saying that this is happening as we speak to this specific case. It's theoretically a situation like this could happen, right? So
Yes, it can happen, and it's a danger. It's a danger, and every country with a small currency should be aware of it. That a crypto platform can be issuing out their currency, basically. So people that wanted that currency would be getting not the real currency, but something else that was printed by that platform. It's an actual real danger, and for weak, small economies, it can change the value of the currency.
That's why, Mark, I believe that in countries like Angola, the law on Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies was banned. You know, you can't have anything from either selling it or mining it, because the risk is still it's greater than the benefits that the countries can at least see right now. Although there are many voices that say, okay, we should mine it and we should at least take advantage of it at some point. But yeah, it's there's a lot of risk involved, and due to the environment and to the lack of regulation and the institutions to regulate that, they rather not have anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't really support that. I like crypto. Like I'm actually had a mine for 2, 3 years. I was mining chia for a long time. So I like it. I think it's a great thing. It's also liquid. Sometimes you need small amounts of money to do something, and it's easier to do it via crypto. So I don't support a blanket ban on crypto. And also I think speculatory activity is fine. Yeah, it's like people do football betting. There's no difference. Like you put some money there, you lose it. You put some money in some doggy coin or whatever, and you lose it. Like that, it's all the same thing. But they
But people
are
should
like,
know. People
yes, of
should
course,
know that.
people should know. Yeah, people should know that they are speculating. But there are some aspects of crypto that can be risky for entire economies. And I think
Exactly.
that the government needs to have skilled people to say, hey, this is fine and that's not fine. Not just kind of everything in crypto is allowed or nothing in crypto is allowed. Like there's some things in crypto should be allowed, but not every single individual by every actor that is operating out of China or places that don't follow the same laws as that particular country. So I think you also see it even like the US, in China and so on. It's regulated. There's some things are allowed, some are not. And I think that should be the model, because many emerging markets, they don't have the skilled people who can understand what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I think they should focus on that, not just doing blanket bans, because it is a useful technology for the world.
Yeah. As far as I know, you in Nigeria, the central bank also issued the digital naira, right?
They did, and I
That
don't think many people used it.
it was kind of an experiment,
Yeah.
a
That's
worldwide
another,
experiment. Hmm?
that's another thing. So CDBCs, right? So central
Central
digital
bank
bank
digital
currencies.
central, yeah.
Um, it's I don't even know if the one used in Nigeria, the eNaira, is based on blockchain or not. So you can also have
I,
a. It's not blockchain, right?
I
Technology.
don't know. I don't know. It doesn't seem like, but I wouldn't know what's underneath.
So Mark, so let us. So finally, I'm going. So this is your first side quest. so, so second one, I want you to explain to us a little bit, because it was in 2023, right? Nigeria had elections,
Hmm.
and well, elections in such a big country, huge population. I don't know how many thousands of polling stations and so on, but you embarked on a personal project. So you tried to kind of do a counting of technically speaking, counting using the PDFs of ballots from
Hmm.
the national election, in trying to come to some numbers. What was that all about, and what conclusions did you came? What lessons learned did you have from that? Can you speak a little bit to our audience about that?
Hmm. All right. So what happened is Nigeria has always had paper elections. So basically, everything is on paper. It gets into boxes and moves all the way, and it's counted somewhere, and then they tell us who won. This has been the way. But then they amended maybe the Electoral Act to say that they are not allowing digital voting. So you can't use digital voting machines, but they are allowing digital authentication of voters, right? And digital transmission of the paper voting sheets. But not there's no nothing is being transmitted digitally, no votes are transmitted digitally, just the paper. That was in the Electoral Act. And that was the first time that it happened. So, I wasn't super interested in what was going on at the time, but I kind of thought all the votes would come out live, because it sounded that way. And the election came, and the day after the election, we found out, oh no, they're not actually going to tell us who won or anything, but they are going to put all the voting sheets of 178,000 polling units online. And somehow, like, they are going to count in all those stations, and we have to figure out if the count is correct or not.
Yeah.
And we found that out, like, on the day of the election. And it was like, okay, this is how exactly do we go about counting all these sheets. Different people had theories, but I have my HNG internship people. We're a big network now, a lot of skilled people in there. So I went in there and said, let's figure this out. I said, who is interested? I think we got like 10 people who said, they are ready to start work on it. Designers, developers, some people. And we started trying. So we thought, okay, AI can do this. Nope, AI could not do it. We tried Amazon recognition. We used all the paid services. Nobody could do the sheets because it's just a photograph. Somebody's using a phone to take a photo and then it gets transmitted. So it could be upside down. It was on a table. You'd see people's hands holding it, all kinds
Different
of different things. Yeah, like in some, you'd see selfies of
angle,
people in there.
different
So
lighting. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the most difficult like vision recognition task. And the problem is sometimes it would get it, but it would be wrong. So you couldn't actually depend. It's because even if 10% are wrong, can completely manipulate the vote. So after trying that for a couple of days, we abandoned and said we have got to do this manually. Now, how do you manually count 178,000 sheets? We decided, like, we quickly built a platform, and what it does, it just shows you a sheet, and here you see all the parties and a field. So you enter what's in there and press the button, and then another sheet comes, right? So just that. And we put it on Twitter. Everybody was super passionate at that time, and we had like a lot of people coming and just giving a lot of information in there. And it was going great, but 178,000 is a lot. So we kept going and going and going. And what we had planned to do was do all of it once, then go back and then start again for the cross check, because you don't know who is really going to do that. But along the way, a lot of drama happened. A lot, like, we got a lot of attacks. Ministers were tweeting and people were screaming at us. It became like the big deal of the century. And then so many people came in and were entering all kinds of random numbers and so on. So it like, in the end, we had mostly bad data inside,
Yeah.
right? But what happened when we actually looked in there? We found out that because of some errors in the way that we're coding, the people who were coming, so every time somebody would refresh, they would get something like the same PDFs over and over again. So it's only if somebody just came afresh and saw a PDF and entered that the data would actually be stored. So the bad actors were refreshing and trying to give us a lot of bad data, but their bad data just got caught by the bug. So this bug actually allowed us have one clean copy of almost all the data, like, but that was, each person basically just did one. So we had up to 178,000 people who actually just filled one form, and that data was almost like 90 something percent accurate. So we sampled, and it was so accurate that we said, like, this is basically it, I guess, just because of the volume of people. And then
Yeah.
when we did the collation, like, we actually got the result, and nobody, even till now, nobody has gotten those results apart from us. So we were the only team. But then, it was such a heated election that everybody now turned, we became the victims, and all the parties were saying, like, they all attacked us. And in the end, like, all my people abandoned. Like I abandoned the project. We just brought out all the spreadsheets that we got and said anybody who needs the data, it's right there. You can work with it. But we
Yeah.
are not going to make any announcements on the results. We're not going to say who won. All we would say is this is what we did. Here are the
Yeah.
spreadsheets. You can sum it up by yourself and get your own answers. And that's where it ended.
Okay. So you kind of also open sourced the platform. Do you have it on,
Yeah.
I don't know, a
Yeah. Yeah.
GitHub
Yeah.
repository?
The platform is on GitHub. Like we put all the code there, all the data is there, everything that is all there.
Amazing.
Amazing.
It's a very difficult. Yeah. So it took you almost 2 days, right, to take the decision and say, listen, guys, we are not going to make this automatically. We cannot do this, right? This is almost impossible to do it on a short time frame. And you decided to do the platform, right?
Yeah.
So everyone that was available and volunteered, they could open and introduce the data of the ballot, right? Of the polling station ballot. It was the
Correct.
sum up. Okay. Oh my God, that is crazy. But what lessons? Technical lessons. I don't know. People managing lessons. How do you say? What lessons did you took from it in terms of
Well,
Decision
crisis
making,
even
crisis
management?
management.
Because this is like you have a very important task, a very important project. What kind of lessons that you take from it, essentially?
I think, well, I mean, from a technical perspective, because we did build a relatively complex platform in like 1.5 days. And I think the major lesson from that was like, if the people are really good, you can build almost anything at the speed that you want. Because I think if we hadn't had that pressure, this thing could have taken 6 weeks to build with sprints and retrospective and all kinds of things. But
I'll do
everybody
it
was just
tomorrow. I'll
telling,
do it tomorrow.
yeah, like it was so intense, and everybody was like really putting everything into it that we built it in almost no time.
Yeah.
So I think like that, like I think maybe you could also say the other lesson there is like how motivated the people really are to want to see this thing come to life. And maybe enough companies don't have people that actually have that extreme want, in the product. They do it because it's a job, but do they see it as a kind of like the most critical thing? And I think in those moments, we did see that because we wanted to see the real results of the election. We didn't want to give any chance to people to manipulate the results. And by the way, we did. Without our work, they would not have done as well as they did in the court cases, because we pointed out like so many states where the election results were completely off. And it's only because we had those spreadsheets that they could find that out.
They will use like I don't know if I could call it evidence, but as some kind of
Yes.
we have
Yeah. They submitted 30,000 sheets from us to the court. I mean, how do you and the we had that like a 6-week period to lodge their court case. How do you do that? How do you count 30,000 sheets? If we hadn't done it, it would have been impossible. So but that would be one lesson. Apart from that, I mean, it's difficult because it was just chaos. It was pure chaos what we were doing there. Um, I'd say most of it was just energy, because there wasn't structure, there wasn't anything. It was just working with really good people on a very intense sprint
But
and trying to
Mark,
make something happen in a short period of time.
from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, we need to cut the crap. Most organizations are too structured, too many roles, too many directors and everything. But in the end, you need things done, and you need that energy. You need to feel the passion, the drive, and I don't know. Maybe we all can learn something out of that, so that we can have some kind of purpose that drives people, so that people can really feel that energy. And I find it amazing. I find it amazing. and
I
solve
agree.
everything with engineering. I think the engineering approach, I had a meeting a couple of days ago and I said, look, guys, we need to go engineering on this because it's how to solve problems. The thing is that you need to solve the problem.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Mark, almost 1 hour. I think we could be
More.
here for at least a couple of hours more. If we had more things planned for you, I think you could be here and share with us even more stories and experiences. And I hope in the future we could have you here again more and more times. And I hope you accept. You are wonderful guests, wonderful story. I just want to finish and ask you, Mark, what can we expect from you, from Mark, from Hotels.ng for the next couple of years, short, medium term? What are your plans? What do you have on your back?
Well, I mean, we're coming out of some very difficult years now. We had a COVID. COVID was really bad for the travel industry. Took some time to recover from that. Luckily, we did. We have some good clients now. And also, we had devaluation. We had some serious devaluation now in Nigeria, which has made the businesses are not doing that well globally, like if you compare to the global market. So a big part of what I am focused on now is figuring out how to connect, how to produce basically in Africa, but not sell in Africa. I'd rather produce locally and sell in some very rich countries so that money can move in the direction of Africa and people can work from Africa and actually earn or contribute elsewhere, but then get paid. So this is going to kind of flatten the economies, increase the amount of money coming in. So we are planning a lot more around placement. So HNG internships, HNG, the people, getting a lot more of them into different roles globally. That's going to be a big push. Like I'd mentioned earlier, India. So I also want the things that we have done successfully in Nigeria, I would also like to do them in India. I also think that there are opportunities in Europe. There are a few things that I've observed, particularly around marketplaces. We do marketplace, like that's our core. And I think that there are a few opportunities in Europe around marketplaces that could also benefit. We have a core advantage in Africa in that you can have a lot of cheap support. So you can have many, many people working that are doing support related roles. So any type of marketplace that is very high touch, that requires a lot of individual attention, it's something that you can have in Europe, but you operate it from Africa. Then we are also opening cars.ng, so we are expanding the marketplaces that we are doing in Nigeria. We have Hotels.ng, we have just launched cars.ng. We're going to launch travel.ng quite soon. So that's kind of expansion of just not pure hotels, but a lot more around travel. We also have a marketplace building platform with which we are using to build all the marketplaces. So we've spent a lot of time building the platform, and now we are going to launch more and more marketplaces in more and more locations. I also think there's a lot of interesting things around AI that enable work. So I like marketplaces. It's kind of what we do. So I think there's a lot that AI can do in the marketplace space to make it move faster, to get your supply in quicker, to get your demand in quicker. So a lot of my time coming is going to be spent, I think, not just implementing, but also thinking about and watching how technology is evolving. Because I think anybody doing too strict strategies right now, you're not doing it right. Because we don't know, things 6 months ago, things were very different from today. And we don't know how it's going to be 6 months from now. So we have to be, watching and adjusting what exactly is going on, how AI can be used. But, as the first steps, how can we directly use AI to make our marketplaces better, make them grow faster, enter new geographies? I think that's mostly what I would be thinking around.
So you're not an AI doomer or an AI. You embrace the change. so to
And
speak.
we have to, right? Like, it's literally our bread and butter. If we don't embrace the change, then we're gonna get hungry.
Well, Mark, thank you so much once again. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire Africa Tech Talks team. As you can see, Victor is not here. We had several technical problems during our recording. Hopefully, we don't have to record this again, but I will tell you. Hopefully, let's see, Mark. Okay, Mark, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. We
It
surely
was
enjoyed
really,
it.
really, really nice.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll meet again and have you here on the pod. And thank you for sharing your insights with our viewers. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Mark.